Hey guys, and welcome to a new video. Today we're gonna take a look at the reworked and changed Ascendancy classes in Path of Exile Echoes of the Atlas. So we got spoilered a little bit on the overall video, like explaining video from Chris Wilson himself, talking about the Inquisitor, the Deadeye, and also the Elementalist changes. And all the other, what is left, 16 Ascendancies will get numeric changes like buffs and nerfs overall and some minor changes. So today, at least yesterday, this one got released. Today we're going to cover that one to just give a small overview on what is going to get changed and just my 2 cents about certain specs, or at least Ascendancy classes, if they still gonna provide as much utility as they should, or if certain classes just get nerfed to the ground and whatnot. So I would say let's just start right into the action. As you know from our Echoes of the Atlas announcement, in this expansion we have rebalanced all Ascendancy classes. 3 of them, Inquisitor, Deadeye, and Elementalist, have been reworked, while the remaining classes received some numerical changes. To help you plan your builds for the launch, we've complied all of the changes Ascendancy classes in this news post. Snailer! What is the Snailer going up here? So I think we don't have to like go over all the notes over here, because everything will get listed here anyways. So this is not like a beginner's guide on, hey, this is a duelist sub ascendancy called Slayer, and this guy has overleech and stuff. No, we're gonna go over the changes, what got modified, and just a brief overview what I think is going to be good or bad, or how this probably will perform at later stages. Good. Let's start. Modified Brutal Fervor has now 100% increased recovery rate per life leech, and reduced damage taken while leeching, removed the attack speed, attack damage, and reduced damage taken while leeching. So we take less damage and also have increased. So we miss the attack speed and the attack damage. Is this like super bad? I wouldn't say really, because the 10% reduced damage taken while leeching. I think defensive layers are very strong, and I think are better than offensive things. The thing is, obviously, early on in the league, when you don't really have a lot of currency, then you really struggle on DPS while fighting endgame content. But at some point, like, I don't know, like 2 weeks in the league, when you gather your currency, when you get your 6 link and stuff, you're gonna notice that at a certain level of playstyle, Awakener 8, Saurus, and stuff like that, it's never really a damage problem, it's more like a survivability problem. And yeah, we lose some damage over here, but we get reduced damage taken, which I think is great to have. I mean, it's in the end still 4% reduced damage taken. The question is just like, how big of a difference is that going to be? I mean, it's increased attack speed, increased attack damage, so it's not like a more multiplier, so it will have some effect, but I don't think this will be too crazy. Masterful Form, the Frenzy and Endurance charge duration got removed, but now gives 1 to maximum Frenzy charges. This is something I really like, because nobody's actually using that anyways. I'm not even sure if this change will actually make it playable, because at the end, if I'm playing an Endurance charge stacking build, I don't care about how long my endurance charge are lasting, because usually when you're like endurance charge stacking, you're gonna maintain your stacks 24/7 anyways, right? So I don't care if my frenzy charges or endurance charges last for like 45 minutes, because I'm refreshing them anyways all the time. But yeah, this might have some value changes, but personally, like when I think about Snailer, it's more like Overleech and the Overwhelm with the base crit now, right? So you're stacking like 3 Ascendancy points. I think I'd rather take the melee strike range and the accuracy rating over the 1 max frenzy. Maybe there is a build that could use that, but I don't think this change will actually have any impact on the meta. Overwhelm got buffed by 0.5 base critical strike chance. This is basically the weapon critical strike chance, which is super, super nice, especially when you use things like the Savior and what is the other one called from the Syndicate. Yeah, this weapon where you have to unveil. Holy shit, I don't know, because they don't have a base crit strike chance. They have like 5% or 5.5. So this one is actually really big, even though it's only 0.5. But this is your base value where all the critical strike chance and stuff will get applied to. So this is big. Endless Hunger, increased attack speed while leeching. So we got the wait. Where is the Brutal Fervor, Endless Hunger? Brutal Fervor, Endless Hunger. So they basically removed the attack speed on Brutal Fervor, but added it to Endless Hunger. So we miss a bit of attack damage, but we get attack speed. So overall, this shouldn't be any big difference over here, right? Then we have 2 additional melee strike range for impact, which is pretty nice. Then Headsman, 20% more damage with hits and ailments against unique enemies, which is actually good. More damage against unique hits and ailments. I don't know if this is just a wording thing, because in the end, it probably does the same. Because when I say 20% more damage against unique enemies, it's more like a global thing, right? And here is hits and ailments, which basically includes this one as well. I'm not sure. Like, I don't see any difference over here. So, and then we have attack damage, life leech. These are just like the small nodes basically are getting buffed in that regard. Same over here. Attack damage, frenzy, endurance, charge, duration. Yeah, 5% increased duration. Like, who cares? Like, who cares? So overall, I would say Slayer still maintains the same. It's actually, I would say, buffed now with the higher base critical strike chance, the increased melee strike range, and more leech options. So that's definitely fine. Gladiator, one of my all-time favorites, especially when it comes to League Start, just because they're so great with the Bleed Explo and stuff like that, which gives you explosions before Explo chest, right? Once you have currency, once you have the Explo chest, then I would actually consider going champion, actually. But early on League Start, this is just such a good ascendancy. So, Painforged, removed increased damage if you've taken no damage from hits recently. Okay, I mean, no damage from hits recently. It's like when you're max block, you're not like an evasion-based build where you like dodge all the time. So yeah, who cares about that? Blood in the Eyes, attacks have a 50% chance to cause bleeding and 25% chance with hits against bleeding enemies. And they removed the 25%. So this is actually quite nice because on League Start, for example, especially on a bow build, you want to have your 100% chance to bleed as fast as possible, right? And usually you get this in the tree or on the weapon. There is modifiers for that, or even for your first ascendancies. The first thing you have to do is to get your 100% chance to bleed before anything else. Later on with end gear, you have like 200% chance to bleed, so it doesn't really matter in the end. But this is actually easier reachable, and the chance to blind with hits against bleeding enemies is also always very welcome because it reduces their accuracy rating, so you're getting more tanky in that regard. So that's definitely a buff here. Gracious Violence added 20% more damage with bleeding. Removed attacks have chance to cause bleeding, so the 25% got removed over here and added on Blood in Ice, which I think is the first one. Yeah, so that's early accessible. Increased damage with hits and ailments against bleeding enemies is not too impactful because it's only increased damage. What's important is the more damage, but we got 25% more damage with bleeding, got nerfed basically to 20%, so what does this actually give you then? Oh, so bleed, explo, and the 20%. So it is a nerf, not gonna lie, but I don't think the 5% more damage with bleeding missing and the 30% increased damage, it's going to be less damage, but I don't really see there are any problems towards bleed builds, to be honest. Then attack speed, block chance, 2% block attack damage, and here is removed chance to block attack damage while dual wielding or holding a shield. Same with all the other nodes. This is something I really, really welcome. So, you might wonder, wait, it's the same, like, whatever, if you're having a shield or dual wielding, what else should block? And exactly this is the thing. I was playing a max block bleed bow Cyan or Ascendant like a couple of weeks ago, where I actually used the rear guard, which is a quiver that gives you chance to block attack and spell damage. So the big problem here is how many nodes do you know that give you overall chance to block? You know, there is always the nodes chance to block attack damage while dual wielding or shield. So I'm using a bow. Okay, so I'm not dual wielding, neither do I have a shield, so all those nodes doesn't give me anything, right? But this one actually does. This is a global modifier. I can use this while unarmed, which is kind of dual wielding, I think, but I can use this also with the bow, right? So with this change, I could actually consider using the rear guard, making a max block bleed bow gladiator, just because of that. The thing is just like, what are we going to skip out? Because early on, I want to have my bleed explosions and the more damage with the bleeding. I also want to have the challenger charges, because if you go that route with the max block, you want to have versatile combatant because your maximum chance of block spell damage is equal to your block attack damage. So the only thing you have to focus on is attack damage, because you're going to get the same value out of spell damage. And all these nodes will have block attack damage rather than spell damage, because you get this from the Ascendancy, right? So that leaves open. You could go Bleed, actually, Gracious Violence. Then on the second, you basically take max block. That's pretty much it, right? But on a later stage, when you say, like, wait a second, I have an exploit chest, or I have access to an exploit chest, and I have the damage, you could actually go for Arena Challenger charges and maybe Violent Retaliation to get even more max block out of it. Or you're gonna take the route with Outmatch and Outlast for the reduced physical damage taken and more physical damage done, while maximum Frenzy Endurance charges, the same way as I have played my Bleed Bow Gladiator in the past leagues, more or less, with permanently sustaining maximum charges on Frenzy and Endurance. But this is going to be quite interesting if we can actually make a rear guard Bleed Bow build where we can actually sustain max block on a bow character. So I really like these changes overall. Champion. So, Inspirational. 30% increased effective non-curse auras from your skill. Non-curse, this is aura stacking, actually. Increased effect of non-curse auras. Yeah, this is aura stacking. And they removed the movement speed and doubled the effect. So this is actually a little bit weird, but I personally don't know any champion aura stackers, to be honest. So probably fine. So Master of Metal impales you, inflict last 1 additional hit, and they removed 2 additional hits. This is what I think a big nerf towards impale builds, because as we know, you have 5 impale stacks overall, right? +2 if you have the Watcher's Eye with the impale modifier, and this is basically it with the 7 stacks, or your champion you can get up to 9 stacks, which is like 20-30% more damage than actually the one with the 7 impale stacks, right? So the thing is it still worth going for Master of Metal? I think yes, it is, because of the other stuff that you get, but this is actually quite a nerf that you have 1 less impale on the target. Probably that's a direct nerf to all these Ground Slam, Call of Steel builds or something like that. That might be the thing, but this is actually a sad change. But on the other hand, every time I play an Impale, Cyclone or something like that, I never really go Champion. Like, I play as a Snailer or Berserker or something like that. Like, Champion, for me personally, I like it as a Bleed Bow, just because of the permanent Fortify, which I don't really need as a melee character, because of Fortify support being one of the best offensive and defensive supports anyways. So I guess that's the reason why they changed the Master of Metal, because of those slam builds. So, Unstoppable Hero, increased attack speed while you have Fortify, armor and evasion while you have Fortify, and they removed attack speed, armor, and increased attack damage. So they basically doubled the attack speed and removed some of the attack damage, which is fine, because more hits, more impales per second, and so on. So this is actually quite okay, I would say. It's like, one thing you have to understand, a lot of these value changes will not really... It will be a little bit of a balance. Sometimes you're going to have a little bit more damage out of it. Sometimes you're going to have a little bit less damage out of it. But overall, that none of these changes that I've seen yet are like, yo, this character is dead, you know? This Ascendancy will be the worst one that we're going to have in 3.13. I call bullshit, you know? Like, I really like the block thing on the Gladiator here. On the Slayer, not really a lot of differences. On the Champion, I don't see a bunch of either. This one is a little bit more impactful towards the Cycloner, but as I said, I would actually play Cyclone Impale as other Ascendancies anyways. So, Conqueror, reduced damage taken if you've taunted an enemy recently. Enemies taunted, you deal 20% less damage with hits and enemies. So, the enemies deal less damage, and ailments against other targets. Removed regen, taunted. So that's actually a big defensive buff, actually. We get more reduced damage taken. The enemies deal double the amount of less damage. So that's actually a big defensive boost here on Conqueror. That's really good. That's actually really good. So more defensive layers, as I was explaining in the start, with the damage and survivability ratio. At some point, you don't care about your damage, you care about your defensive. And I see big or nice defensive layers on the Slayer, now on the Champion, as well as on the Gladiator. So I like where this is going, actually. Armor and evasion, increased effect of Fortify. That's always nice to stack. Who cares about the attack damage? Fortify is what makes the Champion actually that great. As well with the alternate, what is it called? The alternate or the new base types where you actually get even more effective fortify, because fortify is actually insane. Then we have chance to impale enemies with hits and attacks. That's a nerf, I would say, because at a certain point with the impale support, you have more than enough chance to impale on attacks, especially with the skill tree as well. So maybe there have been some adjustments there as well. But what you actually want to do is increasing the impale effect, you know, so you get more damage out of releasing every single impale, you know. So this one is an actual nerf to impale. Then we have effect of 45 on you. This is great. As I said, again, this one pretty much sums up. I guess this is just a small note over here. Yeah. So at some point, you may be struggling a little bit with the chance to impale, since you don't want to really have that on your weapon either. So usually skill tree and the gem, and then probably on your skill tree as well, or at least on your ascendancy, and you should get the 100% because this is what you want to reach, 100% chance to impale. So yeah, I'm sad about the impale effect reduction, but hey, we get double the effect of fortify instead of attack damage, which is like really good. So overall, I would say still maintains a great ascendancy choice. Just a little bit sad on the additional impale, but hey, that's a bit of damage, but the survivability makes it definitely up for. Assassin. So Noxious Strike, we get 5% increased damage over time multiplier for poisons. I think that's fine. I'm not sure if this is actually equivalent to the value of 50% increased damage. I mean, you have to consider increased damage is not as powerful as the more damage or damage over time multiplier for poisons. Maybe a bit of a nerf, maybe a bit of a buff. I think that the 5% damage over time multiplier is a little bit less worth than increased damage, but overall, like, who cares? Opportunistic, 20% reduced damage taken while there's at least 2 rare or unique enemies nearby. Wait. If there are at least 2 rare enemies... Oh, wait, I just mistaken that. So it was 2 enemies before. I thought it was 1. Probably another note. Increased movement speed if you have killed recently. That is sad. Like, what is Assassin basically, right? Power charges, insane movement speed. And here we lose 20% movement speed. I'm not sure if wait, where there's at most 1 rare unique. Oh, this is how it works. Okay, sorry, that was my bad. You deal more damage if there is only 1 unique enemy, but you get reduced damage taken if there is at least 2 rare or unique enemies nearby. Okay, whatever. But I just dislike the fact that we lose movement speed over here. But hey, like, as an assassin, it shouldn't be too hard to get like around 250% movement speed. So 20% is still 20%, you know, but let's continue. Toxic Delivery. 0.5 critical strike chance per poison affecting the aim up to 2%. This is basically just a numeric change. Actually, it doesn't really matter. It's like, here it was 5 poison stacks, now it's 4 poison stacks. On good poison builds, you're gonna apply like 10 poison stacks or more per second anyway, so who cares about that change over here? It would be like a slow attacking build, which I think poison is not really too great on. Reduce damage taken over time. Yeah, I mean, what does that account for? Like, you know, at some point, I always like to play my characters with ailment immunity anyway, so Ignite and all that kind of stuff doesn't apply to me. This is more like Poison, but you can get the, not Poison immunity anymore, but maximum 5 poison stacks. This would probably apply to Burning Ground and stuff like that. Yeah, it's kind of sad, because it's another layer of defense, actually, but it's not too valuable. And we have Fist as extra chaos damage against poisoned enemies, which is also like... So, Toxic Delivery is a nerf, because, as I said, this one has the same effect. This is just 4 attacks, this is 5 attacks, so who cares about that? You just lose the reduced damage taken, and you also lose the extra damage, so... Here we have a speed nerf, here we have a damage nerf, here I think is a damage nerf as well. Mistwalker gain elusive on crit strike. Elusive has a 50% increased effect. Then we have 50% chance to get elusive. That doesn't really matter too much. I mean, yeah, now you have permanent elusive while critical strike, but on the other hand, as an assassin, you usually go crit anyways, even on poison build, so you have like 7-8 attacks per second anyways, depending on the build, so I'm talking about Blade Vortex, for example, so I don't see there any value lost here. We lose attack and cast speed. We lose reduced damage taking, but we get more elusive effect. Wait, what was elusive again? You get increased movement speed, chance to dodge attack and spell hits, I think. So we're gonna get a little bit more movement speed out of that because of the effect of elusive. But the reduced damage taking is a little bit sad, actually. So we lose reduced damage taking over here, and lose movement speed over here. Like, this is a big clap to assassins, actually. Okay, let's go on. Deadly Infusion removed. Increased movement speed while on maximum frenzy charges. Okay. Power charge duration, who cares? Increased damage over time. Nerf. Damage over time. Nerf. Elusive effect. Kind of the same, I think. As I said, elusive gives you movement speed as well, so increased effect of elusive will also give you more movement speed. And so basically sums up, the assassin loses movement speed and loses damage, which kind of sucks because these are actually the two things that made the assassin so powerful, was the speed and the damage. Yeah, that's kind of sad, to be honest. Question is how big of an impact it will be, because there are some builds like poison, like power charge stacking things. There is the option to play it as an occultist as well, but assassin was always the way to go as a wonder, for example. So yeah, I don't like this. I don't like this. It's like taking away the block chance of a gladiator, right? Or the rage benefits of a berserk. You know, that's what they just did with the assassin, like removing movement speed and the damage of poison and overall damage. So, and reduce damage taken. So that's actually a big yikes. Saboteur, I kinda have to ditch, because I don't know if I ever played a Saboteur, because I'm not really the miner player or trapper player. Blind enemies on hit. So there's a little bit of a damage nerf, but we get permanent blind on the enemies, which is like super nice for a layer of defense. Crit strike multiplier against burning enemies. So this is actually a defensive nerf. I just the problem is, when I'm not playing Ascendancy, it's hard to judge if this is impactful or not. Like, I played shit tons of Assassins, right? So I know that these changes gonna have like quite some impact. I also know, based on my Gladiator playstyles, that this is actually going to be huge, right? But for never playing in a Saboteur, I have no idea if this is actually insane of a nerf or something like that. I just sorry guys, I have to skip that just because I have no clue about this one. And even if this Ascendancy gets buffed 10 times in a row for not liking the miner or totem playstyle, I will just still not play it, even if it's the meta build, more or less. Trickster, this is going to be interesting, because I love my Tricksters, especially when I play them with Essence during Contagion and other builds. So, Weave of the Arcane, increased maximum mana, and chance to recover 10% mana when you use a skill. So that's actually buffed, more mana, but we have the reduced damage taken for 4 seconds after spending a total of mana. So we lose the damage taken, but we get more mana and more chance to recover, which is very, very cool for all these Archmage builds, for example, how I like to play them, because all my Archmage builds are, I think, Trickster as well. Like Archmage Ignite and stuff like that. Really like that. So I don't think, like, we lose a little bit of damage taken, but we get more value out of, like, more damage, basically, based on that. So that's fine. So, Ghost Dance. Added 3% reduced damage taken per Ghost Shroud. That was not there before, I think. Chance to evade while you have Energy Shield. No, it's 2% reduced damage taken per Ghost Shot. Now it's 3%, so probably that makes up a little bit because of that. So we are still getting 3% extra damage taken less than it used from Weave the Arcane, which is fine, because not every build that used Weave the Arcane went into Ghost Dance. Then we have, when you lose a Ghost Shot, you recover 4% of your evasion rating. Yeah, Energy Shield, yeah. That's actually a buff here, 5%. So you're gonna, and 10%. So we lose the movement speed here, but we get less damage. And we also gonna recover more energy shield out of our evasion rating, which this makes the max block more or less so good with the shield, with your like recover energy shield when you block. Plus, when you not block and you get hit, you're still gonna recover energy shield. So this is actually the thing that makes the Trickster so insanely strong. And I just see a small buff here at the survivability, which is pretty great. We lose movement speed, yikes, but hey, we got this. Escape Artist, increase attack and cast speed per Ghost Shroud. So we lose like 3% attack and cast speed, and we actually lose dodge spell hits if you have Energy Shield. This is kind of sad. As I said, I don't like. I'm personally, I don't mind damage nerfs, but I actually mind defensive nerfs. Because these are also gonna have a lot of impact in hardcore, right? And solo self-on and that kind of stuff, like hardcore solo self-on and races. There's actually oops. So prolonged pain removed 20% increased poison duration. Wait, where is that note? Prolonged pain. Increased poison duration? Wait. Trickster had poison notes? Yikes. Didn't even know that. There you see how impactful that was, right? So, Patient Reaver, you recover 3% life, ES, and mana on kill. So we lose damage over time, which kind of sucks. That was the note over here when you scaled towards prolonged pain. Kind of sad, to be honest, but hey, 50% increased damage over time is actually a lot. Yikes. But hey, we got this. Hardness of the Void, 27% chance to gain 25, 50, 100. And here it was 25, 15, and 5. So, yeah, a little bit more chance. Like, it's like 1 or 2% more. Like, I wouldn't, like, bet an eye on that one here. Attack and cast speed, 10% increased damage. Remove 10% increased damage over time. I think that's pretty much the same. This just opens up the variety of other builds, not only damage over time builds. So that's fine, I guess. Attack and cast speed, well, it's just duration. So overall, a buff to Ghost Dances I see, but we lose damage and a little bit of an adjustment, but I think Trickster will stay the same pretty much, to be honest. I don't think, like, if you plan to use Acid Drain, Contagion, Trickster as your league start, that I might consider too. Those changes don't really affect me at all, like. So, Juggernaut. Some of the more unloved builds, they were like so big in the early stages, like 3.12, 3.1, 3.2, 3.3, 3.4, and at some point Juggernaut was like, hey, they're gone, right? Remember back in the days with the Molten Strike Juggernauts and stuff? Holy shit, that was so good. So what do we get? Accuracy rating nerfed, increased attack speed per 150 accuracy. So that's a little bit buff here on that regard. Accuracy equal twice your strength. Equal to your strength. Okay, so you're gonna get less flat accuracy, but on the other hand, you're gonna get more accuracy out of your strength, basically. So, and in the end, you're gonna get more attack speed out of it. On anything else, increased damage if you deal a critical strike in the past 8 seconds. Increased accuracy. So there is a lot of things that are like changing, but I think either here is fine. I mean, we lose a little bit of damage over here, but we get more attack speed. So the question is always like, in the fully grown out build, you know, how much of an impact that will be. But as far as I see, who cares? So armory, increased duration of power of endurance charges. Great. Like, I always love to have like more seconds on my endurance charges, because like it's always said if they only last like 3 minutes, right? They could last like 3.5 minutes. Like, why not, right? Here the same, and here we have added regen, stun duration on enemy. I never play stun builds, so the regen is actually quite nice as well. So overall, remains kind of unchanged. And yes, I want to mention this again. If I say remains kind of unchanged, it doesn't mean, wow, this is insane, or holy shit, the class is dead. No, it's not. Like, if you want to play Juggernaut, go ahead, dude. It's nothing literally changed. Just some minor calculation things and stuff. So I don't think so. Good. Berserk. Increased attack speed if you have been hit recently. Got a buff. Added 10 to maximum rage. Reduce critical strike chance per blitz charge. So Blitz will be buffed, increased recovery. So overall, there's 4 changes. All of them are actually buffed. I like the 10%, the plus 10 maximum rage, wherever that is. I think somewhere over here. Wait, rage. Crave the slaughter. Dude, am I blind? Ah, there it is. I like the maximum rage though. So Berserker got buffed in the numeric values, more leech, more damage. Especially I like the blitz thing here, reduce critical strike chance. Because you're gonna get blitz charges, you're gonna get shit tons of attack speed. But you're gonna lose critical strike chance, and once you stop critting, you lose your blitz charges. So with a reduced critical strike chance here, it's actually a buff, so it's easier to maintain your blitz charges. So overall, Berserk, very well to go. Chieftain. So, increase area effect while you have a totem. Ah, who plays totems, dude? Cleansing water, 50% physical damage from hits taking as fire. That is actually insane. That is actually insane. If you followed my my go through over the Transcendence build, where I really struggled to get the physical damage taken from hits, here's another 5%, which is kind of insane. Transcendence Chieftain. I was considering that last league as well, just because of the Ascendancy choice here. That is nice. I really like that. Because it's easier to get 75% maximum fire resistance than it actually is to get 75% physical damage reduction, right? And then we have here damage dealt by your totems leached as life. Got double increased effect of buffs granted you by active ancestor totems. Doubled as well. So Chieftain got a buff in that regard. So I don't see any big difference over here. I like this change here just for the Transcendence builds that I played last league. So maybe gonna do this again as a Chieftain maybe. If I can finally get the 100%, that would be so freaking cool. And the rest is just like actually buffed when it comes to totems. Necromancer, here we go. Essence of Glutton, 20% increased maximum mana removed. Yikes. That was, I think, the one... because there were a bunch of like Archmage Necromancer builds. So this is a yikes. Corpse Pact removed. Increased damage if you have consumed the corpse recently. Ooh. I don't want to say I'm a Necromancer hater, right? But Necromancer is just meta for the last, like, how often? Like 3-4 leagues. You're always going to see the most classes are like Scion because of Aura Stacker, Necromancer because of like the Spellslinger and Volatile Dead and Carrion Golems and all that kind of things. So I'm pretty sure that Necromancer got a big hit, same as the Assassin over here, which is kind of okay because, you know, when you go to PoE Ninja and check out the builds, there's always the timeline on the top side where you see what are the most played Ascendancies, what are the least played Ascendancies, right? And as far as I see, Juggernaut is not meta. Berserk is not meta either, right? The meta characters are Scion because of Aura Stacker, it's Necromancers, it's Assassins, it's Tricksters, and so on. And I see a bunch of those meta characters or Ascendancies gonna get nerfed, which I kind of like, to be honest. Like, I would definitely like to see more like Berserks or Juggernauts or Slayers or something like that in the meta, and not like only Necromancers and Assassins and stuff like that, right? Mistress of Sacrifice, you're gonna get 10% increased skill effect duration and minion duration. I don't think this is necessary. Maybe some SRS stuff, or no idea, not playing these kind of things. Then some damage nerf over here, damage nerf over here, damage nerf over here, damage nerf over here. Wait, let me think before I look. I think it's a damage nerf. Yeah, hey, damage nerf over here, damage nerf over here, damage nerf over here, damage nerf over here. So, Necromancer summed up, damage nerf over here and over there, pretty much. So yeah, I think this comes towards the changes as well as the things that we said yesterday with the game balances, where they're gonna nerf Aura Stackers and also like the Summoners, the Carrion Golems, and that kind of stuff. I think this goes hand in hand with all these adjustments as well, which I kind of do agree with. Occultist. This is an actual revamped, more or less, or rechecked. Let's see. More chaos damage instead of chaos damage over time multiplier. The same counts for the cold skills over here, where it is like more cold damage instead of cold damage over time multiplier. Is this a big impact? It certainly is a bit, because it's still less damage, but this opens up for more variety. This only opens up for like Essence Drain or any Chaos Damage over time builds, right? This opens up for actually all kinds of Chaos builds, which are on-hit Chaos builds as well, right? Like, I really like this idea, so I can pretty much choose myself if I want to play some on-hit builds or actually damage over time, and I can use both of those ascendancies on both builds. So when you kill an enemy, for each curse an enemy gain 8%. Oh, this is a big nerf, actually. This is actually a big nerf, because if you're stacking curses, this is a lot of damage that you're going to miss out from Malediction over here. That's a big nerf over here. This is actually, that sucks. Okay, Profane Bloom now has a 40% chance to explode, and it was 25, so this is actually a buff over here. Maybe the return of the Bane Pop Occultist. I mean, that's actually nice, so maybe you can skip on the obliterations, maybe? Or just use one obliteration and take, like, a serious reflection for more defense or something? Maybe. We're gonna see about that. So, Val Bastion, regen 2% energy life per second for each enemy you or minions have killed, up to 10%, and it was 1% up to 10%, so now you only have to kill like 5 monsters, it was 10, so this is actually a buff. This is actually nice. Val Bastion is something I used on my Occultist Righteous Fire build, where you actually had to kill monsters to sustain your Righteous Fire damage gain, right? Which, with this change, makes it easier now. Then Frigid Wake we covered already. Forbidden Power, Ink AoE, and damage per power charge actually got a buff here. Increased power charge duration, who cares? Chaos damage instead. Wait, this is a big shit. Wait a second. Cause increased chaos damage sucks. More chaos damage is good, you know? So if that would be 10% more chaos damage instead of multiplier, I would say like, holy shit, that's nice. But 10% increased chaos damage is just like, yeah. So here we have a damage nerf. So a little bit of a nerf here, but overall, I really like this. This one is actually, will have a big impact here, Malediction. This will actually have a big impact. So maybe people are stop using Malediction unless they want to go for the maximum curse amount. So you have to like route towards that anyways. But what I just see is actually these were actually connected. So you had to take Profane Bloom if you wanted to have Malediction, and now they changed that you can directly go into Malediction. This is something I really like. So I'm not forced like here if I want to have Withering Presence that I'm forced to use Void Beacon first and then go over here, right? So this is actually quite good. Elementalist had a big overhaul, a big change, so there's like lots of things. Shaper of Storms now, your hits always shock. The same with Shaper of Flames and Shaper of Cold, or whatever it's called. Shaper of Winter, sorry, it's Winter. So this is like the 3 Ascendancy choices over here. Your hits always shock, all damage with your hits can chill, all your hits always ignite. So for new players, that doesn't really make sense. For more experienced players, you know that only fire damage can ignite. Now, all of your damage can ignite, which is super nice. Remember back when I played my Archmage Ignite Trickster using the Stormfire Ring, because the Stormfire Ring said lightning damage from hits can ignite. So that makes my Arc cause ignites. Now with Shaper of Flame, I don't even have to wear Stormfire anymore. And basically, I can ignite with whatever, which is kind of pretty sick, actually. 25% more damage with Ignite you inflict with hits, which the highest damage type is fire. The same here with lightning and cold. I think there will be quite a bunch of like elemental-based or trifactor-based builds, which I pretty much like. I mean, this is Elementalist, right? It should be kind of focused around elements, because Elementalist, right? So I'm definitely gonna look into the Elementalist at a later stage of the league, especially because of this one ring that they show with the Ignite Chaos damage or something like that. This is something that really dragged my attention, and with those notes making all kinds of builds viable to shock, chill, or even ignite, that makes it like pretty cool, to be honest. Then we have some travel notes here with increased elemental damage and ailments. Fire damage over time multiplier, this is probably the one over here. Yeah, because it's ignited to the ignite node, which is fine. Remove Shaper of Desolation, gain chilling conflux. I was never really a fan of those confluxes, even though they are like nice, but I want to have an overall good build, and not like, that's why I never liked the Ascendancy from the Chieftain, that one thing where you get like damage buff over time. Where was it? Here, every 10 seconds you gain 100% Fizz's extra fire. I would rather have 50% Fizz's extra fire for the entire duration, or like as default option, and not like every 10 seconds I get 100% Fizz and for the rest of the time I get 0, right? So I don't like these kind of power spikes where you would actually need to wait to get your maximum damage output, and this one kind of is the same with the confluxes, right? But whatever. Beacon of Ruin got removed, which was the one with the shock thing. So basically everything that's here, like these were the golem nodes. There was the leech node, I think, or elemental reflect node. Here was whatever. Yeah, so basically the ones. Wait, what about all the herald things? There were like a couple of clusters with herald damage. Primordial Elementalist. Exposures. So they removed all the reduced mana reservation on heralds from the Elementalist. That's something I don't like. But I'm kind of missing that. Mastermind of Discord. Yeah, they actually removed all kinds of like herald reduction, which is kind of sad. Because Elementalist with like multiple heralds and stuff was always like very nice to have, but that's a yikes. Especially for like you know, there's like a budget Herald of Thunder auto bomber that you can play as an Elementalist. I still think that the Assassin will be stronger because of speed, because of damage. That we got nerfed this league, right? So it's like there will become like some builds we're gonna test out and see how much of an impact it has. I really like the new applications here of these three things here to make like ignite builds or even triple elemental builds if you take all three of those, right? But some things I just don't really understand. I mean, I don't care if they removed the chilling conflux and whatnot. But the reduced mana reservation of heralds was always nice. But now you get like 25% of the affected resistance by exposures instead of like specific ones. So, which is quite fine. We're gonna see how it turns out to be with the Elementalist. So, Deadeye, another big change over here. So, Inquisitor, Elementalist, and the Deadeye were the big changes. So, let's see what happened here. Mirage Archer now are not attached to you. This is kind of funny though. So I guess they are counting as quite of minions now because Mirage Archer is actually above your head and just following you around. Then you have 2 to maximum number of summoned Mirage Archers and cannot summon Mirage Archers while near your Mirage Archers. Heh? Well, if they are not attached to you and they just run to a pack, just run to the other direction or some shit like that. I don't know. There has been some meme builds where people are playing Mirage Archer builds, so probably that's like a buff to them. Me personally, who cares, you know? Like, I have Mirage Archer to like walk around faster, and the Mirage Archers are just chaining off and stuff and killing things for mapping, but that's pretty much it. I don't really mind if they're like running around as minions or stick around my head, you know? Windward, less damage taken per Gale Force. Lose all Gale Forces when hit. This is, I think, the new adaptation to Gathering Wings. But as a Deadeye, stacking evasion, you want to have like dodge cap and spell dodge cap. So that's like, I think there was a note somewhere in the bottom side where you get like more evasion rating if you haven't been hit recently. I kind of forgot the name of it. But you're gonna be like super tanky when you get the first hit. Afterwards, then you still have to like maintain not getting hit and actually get up the Gale Forces again. So you're gonna be vulnerable after you got hit. But therefore, that is a pretty nice synergy with the one note that I kind of forgot. God damn it, dude. I haven't played PoE in like 2 months and I feel like a complete retard here. Okay, projectile damage. Increased projectile damage, Mirage Archer duration, attack speed, projectile damage, blah, 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 blah. Removed. Pierce 3 additional targets. Projectiles. So they removed all the piercing nodes. Where are the piercing nodes, actually? Because I never used them. Because I don't like Pierce anyways, so I cannot even remember where it was in the Deadeye Ascendancy, because I always like Chain and Fork more than actual Pierce, and they don't have a synergy, so don't know how this one will affect. No idea. So, modified, focal point, fast and deadly. Increased effect of your marks. So that was the single target boss mark that you can apply. It's not a curse or not a hex in that regard. 25% less damage taken from other enemies near marked enemies. That's quite nice for bossing, actually. That will be nice for the arena thing. Or you can just mark the enemies and then... less damage taken from other enemies. Does it mean that they get less damage or we get less damage from those? Less damage taken from other enemies near your marked enemy. So I guess we take less damage. That would make sense, actually. Marks you inflict are not removed from dying enemies. Okay. That's now. Okay, so if the dead enemy has a mark on it, the nearby enemy is still gonna do, or we're gonna get 25% less damage. Makes sense. So that is the accuracy attack speed note that was like with the blink arrow, which is totally fine. Gathering Winds had a revamp here, because I think Tailwind now has 100% power or something like that. Gain 1 Gale Force when you use a skill. So... oh, I thought it's a passive effect that you get. So if you just spam your skills, you're gonna get... what is the maximum amount of Gale Forces you can have, actually? Does it say it somewhere here? Because it just say lose all Gale Forces when hit and 3% less damage taken per Gale Force. But the thing is, what Gale Force cap is there? So, and 50% increased effect of Tailwind per Gale Force. That's pretty cool, actually. But yeah, what is the cap of Gale Force? If somebody knows, please let me know. Is it 10? Because that would be sick, dude. 150% increased effective Tailwind. And 60% less damage taken. So I guess it's more like 3 forces or 5 forces, something like that. No idea. So if somebody knows, please let me know in the comments. So Endless Munition skills fire 2 additional projectiles, which is super nice. I don't mind these two. I mean, less area of effect is always bad. But additional projectiles is always like really good on any kind of bow skills or projectile skills. Rupturing, this is the new one where we actually can take a look into a Bleed Deadeye. Critical strikes with which inflict bleeding also inflict rupture. If you would play a Bleed Deadeye, you're gonna have wait, critical strikes which inflict bleeding. Doesn't actually every critical strike apply ailments? Or was it only bound on elemental ailments? I'm not even sure. So, removed the attacks cause bleeding, multiplier against bleeding, blah, blah, blah. But this is actually Rupture. This is actually nice. Do we actually see what Rupture does? Rupture targets take 25% more damage from bleeding, and bleedings on them expire 25% more quickly for 3 seconds. Up to 3 ruptures can affect a target. That's like 75% more damage from bleeding, although they're gonna have reduced duration, but in the end, the damage per second will be insanely high because it's 75% more damage from bleeding with this node. This is actually insane. Like, think about, you put down your ensnaring arrow and you get a puncture crit or multiple puncture crits, you know, that's going to be insane amount. Like, for example, the Gladiator Ascendancy gives you 20% more damage with bleeding. This shit actually 75% more damage. That's actually insane. As long as you crit with your puncture. And puncture has a super slow attack speed. So remember last league I was playing around with the crit bleed bow build, so maybe rupturing would be the way to go. But that would be like insane amounts of damage if you play a crit bleed bow with rupture. That's actually insane. But then you're gonna make sure that you're gonna have more attack speed, just because if you're unlucky and you do like 5-6 punctures and only one of those crits, you know, your rupture won't do a big shit of damage, actually. I mean, 25%, but, you know, overall. So then we have Far Shot. Projectile Barrage have no spread, which is kinda nice, I guess. That means that all barrage projectiles will actually hit the enemy, which is like insane damage boost in that regard, depending on how many actually miss there. So Ricochet projectiles have 30% chance to be able to chain when colliding with terrain. This is actually quite nice. because of bleed bow, you shoot an enemy or you miss one, right? The arrow flies next to it, bounces off the wall and hits the next target and chains off that, you know, so that might be actually quite fun in maps that are like kind of dungeon style or prison style where you actually have a lot of terrain, because in like burial chambers or something like that, there is not really a lot of terrain going around when you're just like moving into the map, because it's a wide open map here, right? Then increase projectile speed, accuracy, mark, cast speed, whatever, like some minor changes. So I'm really like, overall, I like the change to this Gathering Winds with the Gale Force. I just don't know. Wait, it says here, each instance of Gale Force lasts 4 seconds. Maximum 10 Gale Forces. That's insane. That 30% less damage taken and 150% increased effect of Tailwind. Which is like over 20% action speed in that regard. If you can actually use 10 skills in 4 seconds. So it's a pretty active playstyle. But overall, I think it's like pretty cool in that regard. God, how many more is there? It's too much, Exile. Oh, wait. We're almost done here. We're almost done. I know it's a long video, but... Quick sip of coffee. Let's take a look at the Raider Ascendancy. Rapid Assault, increased onslaught effect. And you have permanent onslaught, which is kind of nice. Instead of gain onslaught on kill or when you hit an enemy. So you're gonna have permanent onslaught, which is quite nice. More defensive. Melee attacks, projectile attacks. What about spell? I think you cannot even evade spell damage. You can just block them or dodge. But evade, I think, only counts for melee and projectiles. Then, remove 10% increased attack speed. Doesn't really matter too much. Increased evasion rating. So, let's see the values. So, all the Avatar of Slaughter values for power frenzy charges got buffed by a little bit, which is quite nice. This is also nice as well. It's not any longer maximum frenzy charge facing. So, Raider pretty much summed up: permanent onslaught, permanent facing, increased effect of onslaught, just the typical thing. As well as nearby enemies have fire, cold, lightning exposure while you have facing, and less accuracy. So you lose the movement speed, the dodge. Yeah, it's like the major problem that I have with Raiders. I think Raider is a useless ascendancy. Like, there is nothing on a tree that a Raider has that I cannot get with anything other related, like items, for example. If you say, yo, Raider has Frenzy Charge and Hit, like, yeah, you can craft a chest with Frenzy Charge and Hit, right? And you can craft, or you can buy a Precursor's Emblem, for example, for Frenzy Charge and Hit and stuff, you know? Oh, Raider has Onslaught? Yeah, there is rings with implicits where you get Onslaught on hit with attacks. I mean, they're expensive, but they do exist. So what does a Raider give me that I cannot get through items? Like, nothing, I think. I mean, it's going to be nice if you have permanent onslaught without attacking a monster. This is, like, nice because you can get, like, there's items that actually buff your onslaught even further. So, maybe for a speed farming build. But as I said, I personally don't like the Raider Ascendancy at all. Like, I would actually play every build where you say, like, yo, you could play Raider Flicker Strike, you know? I could play Flicker Strike on any other build too, you know? So, I don't want to say I'm a Raider hater. It's just, like, I don't really see the special in the Raider, you know? So, Pathfinder, what do we have here? Chance to deal 100% more damage. Wait a second. So, that's a bit of a poison nerf here. That actually sucks. Because it was 60% from your weapons and 40% in your Ascendancy, so you had a permanent 100% chance to deal 100% more damage. So now you're down to 90. Plus weapon enchant, you're probably on 96%, so still very high, and I guess it still will be fine. You lose Virulence slower. I think that doesn't really have any big impact. I think the Virulence thing with the Crawler is something more of a Herald of Agony build or something like that. I don't know if there's Herald of Agony Pathfinders out there. I think most of them are like Juggernauts. So, no, Champions actually. I think it was Champion. So that's fine. Then we have a little bit more damage as a random element. I actually never use Veteran Warrior. I think it was like somewhere over here. So I'll, like, always like go with the Flask notes, right? And then the Poison notes or Chaos notes, whatever. Oh, and they actually swapped it around. That's pretty cool. Because usually the Master Toxicist was actually here, and the Nature's Reprisal was on the right side over here. So you had to go through Master Toxicist or the other way around to get your area of effect, which I kind of don't see here anymore. 30%. So they nerfed the AoE of Chaos a little bit more. Kinda sucks. Recover 6% life when you use a Flask. So like about an instant heal. So Nature's Reprisal has 20% AoE nerf on Chaos. I don't like this. Rip the Bane Pathfinder. That was such a nice AoE. Like, playing Chaos builds on Pathfinder was always so nice. For example, if you think back about the Val Blight Pathfinder, that was also so insane. But that's like 20% AoE nerf, which is kind of sad. Then we have 50% more Chaos damage with attack skills, which is a buff. This is new. So, Pestilence Strike. Physical damage converted to Chaos as well. So, yeah. Overall, nothing too crazy. A little bit nerf on the AoE. Some rub around here on the Ascendancies. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So, nothing too big. Inquisitor. I know a lot of people expect a lot now that I can talk about. But there is just one thing that I just have to say. I don't like Templar classes, you know? They don't call me mbXtreme for no reason, right? So Templar has the worst looking MTX. You know, this guy is like 10 meters tall and like that thin, you know, all the MTX and wings look like so weird. And I am no beast of burden all the time, you know, like freaking hell. I just don't like Templar classes. Never mind if Inquisitor is good or Hierophant or Guardian or something like that. I just have no freaking idea about Inquisitor because I never played them. So I just have to skip that for the greater good, I think. Same as on the Hierophant. I never play those. I have not even an idea what these things are doing. I mean, I could write a list now and be like, yo, I need to play these kind of builds just because I never play them. And on the top of the list, Inquisitor, Hierophant, Saboteur, Necromancer, more or less. Like Summoner builds in overall, because I never play them as well. There's like a couple of ascendancies. There's like one part. You know, you have the 100% of the skill tree. I think I covered like 50% of that with my overall build with like Gladiator and Max Block and then How to Bomber Assassin and Trickster Essence Drain and whatnot. But these are kind of the builds that I just never play, never touched. And I cannot even say if this is a buff or a nerf or anything like that. So we're just going to skip that 3. So the last thing is actually the Ascendancy where we're going to take a look. And I'm sorry for all these Templar lovers. I'm just not. So I don't want to burn my fingers over here. So Trickster. Like who goes Trickster anyways on an Ascendant? Nobody. But hey, it got buffed. I think it got buffed actually. 70% increased life recovery rate if you killed an enemy by affected or damage over time recently. Like, I've never played an Ascendant with a sub-Ascendancy Trickster. It's always like the same, you know, like Pathfinder, Slayer for Overleech, or you have the Elementalist for the Reflect immunity and stuff like that. I never really played Trickster Ascendancy, so I don't think this has too much of an impact. Elementalist exposure you inflict applies an extra 20%. So this is just like less damage penetration, less herald effect, but more exposure. So if you have a permanent exposure appliement, then this still will be nice. But, you know, you take those Ascendancy, the sub-Ascendancy for a specific reason, and not only because of exposure here, right? Good. Then Raider, chance to dodge, and oof, permanent facing. This is nice. So Raider sub-Ascendancy actually gives you now permanent facing. This is something I really like. Pathfinder doesn't really matter the change here too much, but you're still gonna have the effect, right? Yeah, you do. So that's fine. Guardian is a buff here by 20% in that regard for the sustain. But as a Scion, you always have a specific reason why to play a Scion, right? And I don't think the Guardian Ascendancy for recovering the life was actually mandatory for a Scion. But Raider, permanent facing as Scion, this is actually like really, really nice. So Deadeye, you have your nearby enemies have Tailwind, or allies have Tailwind, effective marks, but we lose additional projectiles. Wait, didn't you have Tailwind anyways? I mean, the thing is, like, I don't see Ascendants as League starters, you know, because they just need way too much to get going, and you're not gonna create your character with Uberlab ready so you can actually use the full power of your Ascendancies, right? And at a certain point, you're gonna have Tailwind boots anyways, so I don't see Deadeye as a mandatory thing. Maybe with the Rupturing, if that is actually applied. Tailwind, nope, there is no Rupture over there, so that's a Deadeye only set. So then we have increased chance to blind enemies, champions. 45 on melee hit, 50% now. 100% taunt. And increased effect of non-curse auras from your skills. So Scion with champion sub-ascendancy might be a thing now. Just because of the aura effect. That's nice. Hierophant, effect of Arcane Surge. That's pretty good. Assassin, elusive on critical strike. Didn't Assassin always had elusive on critical strike as a sub-ascendancy? God, have I ever played Path of Exile, to be honest? Like, I don't know. A little bit more on the Leech on the Slayer. Inquisitor has actually an overall damage penetration now. Had it before as well, but less critical strike multiplier. So going Inquisitor as design was always the damage route. Now it's probably a little bit less damage as well. And Saboteur with the buff of the regen when you detonate mines. These are it is like the dark side of the skill tree, more or less, where I just never really am, more or less, right, to give you a good opinion about that. But overall, I don't see any class as that. I think the most impactful, obviously, Inquisitor, Deadeye with the bleed, and the Elementalist, because these are like the overhaul things, right? The big changes, and all the other ascendancies, all like minor changes, nothing too impactful. I really like the dodge, the block here on the Gladiator again. Here, the nerf with the Impale is kind of sad. Assassin got a big nerf here, less movement speed, less like gets more damage because of the nerfs to the survivability. We have damage nerfs left and right, so that kind of sucks. Trickster still fine, Juggernaut still fine, Berserker got buffed here. Chieftain super fine, Necromancer got a lot of nerfs coming towards the increased damage. Sorry, of minions, but that goes probably hand in hand with all these summoner nerfs that are coming with this league. Occultist, I know it's over, like, there's a lot of changes here, but overall, I think it's pretty nice changes, and it will not really have a big impact. Elementalist, as we already covered with all the fancy stuff. Bleed, crit bleed, Deadeye might be an option that I might look into later on, but this requires more investment than the typical bleed bow Gladiator is a league starter. Raider, as I said, I personally think kind of useless ascendancy, even though perma onslaught, perma facing is super nice to have without attacking, so you really can play around with those settings. But overall, I still think this like not really worth it. Pathfinder, some chaos nerfs, but overall still fine. Inquisitor, no idea, and Scion, as I said. I think the big shiny thing here is the permanent facing if you sub-ascend Raider and the less damage from your Inquisitor. The elusive on critical strike as an assassin, super nice to have, as well as the what was it, the other thing? I think it was Raider facing. God, it has been a way too long video already. I think I could give you a couple of impressions here, but overall, I don't think that there is like too big shit going on. So I'm really looking forward to the new League 3.13 starting in 2 days. Actually, no, wait, today's Tuesday, right? So in 3 days. Tomorrow we're gonna upload or take a look at the patch notes. We're gonna see how many changes are going to be there. Maybe even some new skill releases. I'm still waiting for those because I don't think that there is only gonna be one skill and one support for the entire new league and expansion. But hey, we just gonna wait and see, drink a cup of coffee, and just try to get over the time until there is league start, and we're gonna have a lot of time again. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in, thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.